Hi, my name's Shawn Taylor. That's my friend Jesse. Well, his name is Jesse, but actually today he's feeling more of a James mood.
Just a little.
Just a little bit of James. I think a lot like James.
My name is Jesse, but I identify as a James.
That's fantastic. And by the way, love. I don't even want to call it a costume because that implies that you shouldn't just wear it as regular clothing when I say costume. I think you
Thank you.
should. It's fantastic. And
Stylin', wildin'.
thank you for adding some flair to our little show that we call Pokemalarkey. And today, our little show, we're talking about episode 20, which over here is The Ghost of Maiden's Peak. But before we jump into talking about that episode and breaking it down a little bit, James, how are you today?
Yes.
What have you been up to this week?
You know, I did ask Shawn to dress up as Jesse, but he said, no, I won't do it. I said, Shawn, why? And he's like, she's a girl. And I said, why not? Just have
I
fun with
identify
it.
as an Ash because I do stupid, inexplicable shit constantly.
That is true. I suppose that's
It's
fine.
my easiest. It's my easiest parallel. Or Brock. Maybe somewhere in between Ash and Brock.
Maybe somewhere in between
Some
Ash and Brock.
combination. Yeah.
I'm good, Shawn. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for asking.
I asked this time.
This, I, was, I was preparing myself. I was like, do I deliver a snarky? Thanks for asking because you didn't, or you did ask. Thank you
I
so much.
did this time.
My wife and I are doing great. How are you in the new house? You moved fairly recently, but it looks like you're all settled.
All settled in, all happy to be here, living the dream.
Your new office.
Clearly, I
Your
am in a costume from a character who originated in the 1990s, so clearly I'm living my best life.
your office is very well lit. It really lets the purple show from your hair. I like that a lot.
Thank you.
What have you been consuming? What's been entertaining you this week?
What have I been consuming? Well, besides gin,
Heyo.
I've been watching again lots of anime because it's all I do anymore. Well, no, let me not throw out an anime. Let me tell you about I've been watching Infinity Train from HBO Max, which is a really amazing American style cartoon um, about a train with people who get stuck on it because they have lessons to learn. They end up with a number that's engraved on their hand, and the choices they make on this train with a million different compartments affects that number, whether it goes up, whether it goes down. The sooner it goes down to zero, the sooner you get off the train. It's a really heartfelt show, a lot more serious than most American animation is. It's great. 4 seasons, that's it. All on HBO Max. Each episode is 11 minutes. Really easy to fly through. Highly recommend.
That sounds way too serious for me, but I know that it's
It
another one.
is.
My other podcast co-host, his name is The Objective Geek. He's a huge Infinity Train fan, so go talk to that guy about some Infinity Train.
Chris Ford's got it. He gets it most of the time.
He
He
has
gets it.
exquisite taste in
He does
animation
most of the time.
most of the time.
Most of the time.
That's fantastic.
My
I have
wig is so terrible.
it looks fantastic. You look great.
If you aren't watching, to be clear for audio people, I'm dressed up as James from Pokemon. My wig is terrible. Shawn, let me just get that out of the way. Okay, what have you been watching or
I
consuming?
so I recently I'm gonna try to appeal to. Wow, when I say appease and I say the rest of the sentence, it's gonna sound weird. Try to appeal to your significant other. I recently bought a digital piano and have
Oh
been
wow.
have I'm an amateur pianist, but I played for several years as a younger person, and so
Wow.
I bought a digital piano and a Pokemon music book, kind of like easy, fairly
Oh
for
my god,
beginners.
no you didn't.
I did
That's
indeed,
amazing.
and I can play the opening theme, but there's a huge catch, and I don't know the words, so I'm hoping you or your significant other can help me. Is that when I ordered this book and I'm playing the song, the left hand is just kind of a beat, and then the right hand is essentially the notes that
Sure.
normally a person would sing. And I don't
Melody.
I don't want that. What I would prefer is like to play the accompaniment, I think is the right word,
Yep.
that actually sounds and resembles like what the music is in the background. And so that if I were singing when nobody else is in my house, or if I wanted to send it
Yeah.
out to somebody else, I would want to play the accompaniment so I could be belting it out loud, not playing the literal notes
Yeah.
that I'm singing.
That's fair. When you get the kind of like the lower tier music for that stuff, they always make you play the melody usually with your, the right hand on the higher
It
octaves. But
is. It's a bit
it is annoying if you want to
patronizing,
actually like,
even.
yes, patronizing.
So if you
I'm
ever
impressed. I
stumble
didn't know that about you, Shawn. I love that.
Thank you.
You're like an onion that I'm slowly peeling away.
Sunday, first of all, I'm way better than an onion, Jesse. I'm much more versatile. Second of all, if anyone out there ever comes up with like still for beginners, I can't stress enough. I'm not a total novice, but I'm kind of starting over from scratch here, and I'll play it someday. I'll put it in here. You'll
You
see
should.
exactly where I'm at. But you too will be bothered by the fact that I'm not singing, but that I'm playing the melody, and then somebody will pity me and say, "Shawn, here's like an easy version of the accompaniment for this," and then likewise other video game and TV show chiptunes. So that's been a big part of my week, and it's a lot of fun.
That's amazing.
If you haven't played whatever that instrument that you played in your childhood was for a while, it's very cathartic to do that again. Would recommend. Jesse,
That's incredible.
With that, thank you for your support. Without further ado, though, we've got a let's call it pretty entertaining episode to talk about here. And
yes,
this
we do.
episode is called The Ghost of Maiden's Peak. And I was wondering if you, my friend, would be willing to give us a nice little synopsis.
I do have a quick little synopsis. So, The Ghost of Maiden's Peak. So, after leaving Porta Vista, our lovely resort town, recently destroyed by Tentacool and Tentacruel, our team, our protagonist, arrive in the port city of Maiden's Peak to attend, just in time, the Summer's End Festival. Brock obviously is devastated because Summer's End means no more bikinis. Like, good, get it, Brock. I understand.
Jesse's not summarizing that. He literally said he's like, they're meant for bikinis and beautiful women.
I get it. They are. He understands. Brock and James, we'll get here, both fall for a beautiful girl who's standing by the sea. She disappears. Ash, Misty, Team Rocket, by going to a shrine, learn that this is a woman who waited for her lover as he went off to war. She waited. He never returned, and eventually she turned to stone. Sorry, my wig. While trying to protect Brock.
I feel like we need to describe for the audio-only listeners. Jesse almost choked on his wig.
This James wig comes right down below my chin. My boy hair is not this long. It's very hard to live this way.
It's perfect choke distance. Is what that is, that hair length.
That's what he said. No comment. Sorry. Back to the story. While trying to, Brock and James clearly become enamored with this mysterious figure who they believe is actually the maiden of Maiden's Peak. Jesse, Meowth, Ash, Misty, the whole team, they work together. Team Rocket and our twerps work together using some stickers bought from an old woman who is supposed to understand magic, etc., to try to save James and Brock from the Ghost of Maiden's Peak. And it ends up being that the Ghost of Maiden's Peak is a what Pokemon?
Are you asking me? Do I get to answer?
Who's that Pokemon?
Yes.
He's a Ghastly. He's one
of
a
Ghastly. How ghastly.
One of Shawn's absolute favorites.
They try to fight him to release James and Brock from the spells, but fail because Ghastly is so strong, apparently. But as soon as the sun rises, Ghastly has to leave. Brock and James are okay, but it's revealed, very fun, a very nice twist, that the Ghost of Maiden's Peak is real. And she relies on Ghastly to keep her story alive, which Ghastly does not only because he cares about the old stories, but because he makes a decent buck off of it, which makes no sense.
I'm not going to do it
Whatever.
right now, but you have to let me ask lots of questions about Ghastly when we get to that.
We're there.
We are.
We're there. We're done with the narrative. I need someone to tell me what the fuck is going on, because this is an insane story.
I have so many questions about Ghastly. So he's so intelligent. He can speak, he can impersonate, he can transform into real people with their own personalities and impersonate voices.
He can project.
He can project others, so not himself, but he can project outwardly these other things. The little shit is motivated by money, right? He can see spirits that nothing else can speak. So this living, breathing Pokemon that manga will tell us can probably die, right? So he's technically a living thing, even though he's a ghost-type Pokemon. He's not a literal ghost. He's a Pokemon. But he can interact with actual spirits that nobody else can interact with. And he goes away when it's sunlight, but like he adheres to this man-made festival for his hijinks. Like he has to go in the sunrise, but then he's like, "I'll see you next year." It's like, no, the sun goes down in between.
Don't start interrogating it. As soon as you start pulling at the strings, it falls apart because Pokemon.
I'm mortified. What the hell, Shawn?
Mortadelo.
I'm mortified by this wildly powerful Ghastly, and
they're insanely powerful.
He is terrifying.
Someone call up Agatha from the Elite Four because one of her Pokemon has gotten loose.
No kidding. For a precursor to some of these upcoming episodes, which Jesse, you might remember, are some of my favorites, for a precursor to a stoner who cracks jokes to beat a Kadabra, this thing is terrifying.
Yeah.
Okay, that's my rant. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
No, it's true. It's so bizarre. Rewatching this episode just today for the umpteenth time, I just couldn't get over the fact that this Ghastly was so not only so strong, but
so intelligent.
As it has been established, Pokemon aren't supposed to be able to speak to humans.
Meowth can talk, but Meowth is an idiot. He's not a strategist. This Ghastly...
but also it's weird. Meowth isn't supposed to, and Ghastly is now our second Pokemon who can do that.
This Ghastly counters literally whatever you throw at it, too. Like, Meowth doesn't do that. Meowth is like a parrot. He just talks because he learned and he got a little lucky or something. No, this Ghastly is a hyper-intelligent being that's like actively countering whatever they throw at him, just demolishing... It's a, what do you call it? Like an analogy for the first games for Red and Blue, where if you stumble on a ghost or psychic type Pokemon, you become unstoppable.
Yeah.
You manage to evolve that Kadabra.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
He's an analogy for the games. Maybe they're trying to explain it. They're like, everybody's complaining about this in the games. What do we do? Let's show just how crazy it is. That's what I got.
I don't know. It makes no sense. It's very like, I don't know. I can't get over the. Anyway, it's a very fun, like, so this aired in October for us in America. It aired like right at the beginning of October 2nd, which is very fun because that's like beginning of Halloween season.
For some like context, this is October as well. By the time this is up and Adam and everything, so timely.
It's very ooky, spooky, etc. So, sure, but the Ghastly thing is just his
the more
insane
I think about it,
power.
The more terrified I become.
Yep, it makes no sense. Also, let's circle back for a second. Our team gets here, both the Twerps and Team Rocket. Brock sees a woman in the distance. Of course.
I really do love her character design. She's a very lovely looking female person.
Yeah. Lovely looking. Brock smitten. Obviously, it's Brock. Mm-hmm. James, however. James is a homosexual, and I really detest this like implanting of a straight's identity on James. I don't like it. I hate it very, very much. And can I remind you all, if you watch the episode, James thinks he's into this ghost Pokemon, but when the ghost Pokemon is actually bewitching them at the temple, Brock is just like, yes, And he just floats toward that Pokemon. James, meanwhile, like clutches the rail, holds himself tightly. He's like, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. A gay if I've ever seen one. Thank you. Case closed.
Please, as always, please educate me if I'm saying anything inappropriate. But is it not possible that James is bi?
It is possible, but I refuse to believe it because this is something I have believed forever, and I refuse to allow any differences. James could be bi. That'd be fine. I would have no problem with it.
Right, I thought maybe there
except
was a specific...
on a deep physical level, because I want to be James, because I've always been very attracted to him. That's my only thing.
Sorry, I'm not trying to pin you in a corner where it's like,
no, you're fine.
Jesse hates bis. No, that's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm asking is, I thought maybe at some point you had pinpointed some specific evidence. It's like, oh, this would suggest that maybe he is
nothing apart from nothing apart from James' constant desire to be in drag, and also he does always seem to shy away from women.
Okay, well, that's all I was looking for.
But
interesting.
I very fervently believe that James is a homosexual, and I refuse to believe anything else.
Is it fair to say that he could have just been charmed because this Pokemon is clearly overly powerful and tricky?
That's what I believe.
You don't even have to. And then
Which is why, as soon as he knew, he was like, I don't want to go. I don't want to go.
So his was less of an attraction and more of a mystical, ghastly charm.
Yes.
And then let's unpack a little bit that Ash, well, we don't have to unpack it. The fact that Ash is not affected at all never ceases to crack me up. He's so dull that he's just oblivious.
Useless.
Just oblivious to it. But for what it's worth, I'm gonna keep up with this little thing we've got going because I kind of like how it feels. Jesse, I'm gonna grade Ash. I'm actually gonna give him like a C+ again. If last time he was a B-, this time he's a C+. He doesn't really harm or hurt anything. Thank goodness he's oblivious because his level head does, one more body to help find things. He still has no interest in doing his job, which is catching Pokemon. So maybe a flat C. Let's give him a flat C on this.
I say D-.
That's pretty harsh, but
because
I respect the grading system.
Okay, let's talk about how sends out Pikachu, Ghastly turns into something that can fight Pikachu. He says, okay, fine, I'll send out Charmander. Ghastly turns into a fire extinguisher. Ash, still not getting the picture, which is very Ash, sends out both Squirtle and Bulbasaur, to which Ghastly says, I'll give you Blastoise, and not only Blastoise and Venusaur, but I'll put them together in a fusion. Like, what is happening?
Venustoise or whatever. That's just a Blastoise in a fruity hat. That's all that is. It's all the design is. I do retract my statement though. You're right. At first, I was giving him credit for throwing out two at the same time. Like maybe I'll confuse the Ghastly. But the more I think about it, the less I think that was planned, and more just Ash being stupidly desperate. So you know what? Yep. You're right. I retract my statement. I'm gonna go flat D.
Good choice.
Ash, you suck. Please get better at your job. We still love you. This is tough love, Ash. We swear. We're not trying to be emotionally abusive. We want you to actually do something with your life.
No, I think Brock and Misty would be better off without him, but that's another day's
That's why they leave. Spoiler alert. I'm sure everybody here knows that. Jesse, give me some final thoughts on this episode.
The most fun thing about this episode, obviously, is the surprise at the end when after we discover that it's just Ghastly and it's not really a secret maiden of Maiden's Peak, it turns out that there actually is a maiden of Maiden's Peak, and that Ghastly just wants to, help her, but also make a few bucks. But also, the helping her thing is a lot sweeter, especially when he says, I'm a ghost, so maybe I will find your long-lost lover somewhere in the afterlife. That's very sweet. I like that ending. Also, the animation as they sent the spirits off looked very it's one of the most beautiful scenes we've seen so far. It felt very Ghibli-esque. The animation was very nice.
It feels like it was kind of poster made almost.
Yeah, it was very beautiful.
I've got some good poster spaces in here I could fill. I like that it's never directly said, but kind of implied that she is a real spirit, but that, yeah, humans can't see her, but it sort of implies the existence of real spirits in this Pokemon world, which I enjoy.
Yeah.
And I hadn't thought of it until you said it, and I'm saying that because this is why we talk and you teach me things. Is that there are these few sort of unique episodes where at least temporarily Team Rocket and Team Ash are on the same team, and they're kind of more. I want to say they're kind of more childlike, like child gang of Goonies misfits in
They're
those
fun episodes.
And
Yep.
it has a certain charm in that regard as well. So thanks for pointing that out. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. I agree. I love when the twerps and Team Rocket interact. It's one of the best. Like when they're on the same team, it's good writing. Love it.
It's one of those things you can't do all the time, but you sprinkle it in every once in a while, and it makes folks feel good. Without further ado, then, we are going to, again, still kind of testing this out, but we like it so far. We're going to have a little Pokédjacent segment in which this time Jesse is going to pitch his little homage. We're not trying to persuade you, and we're barely trying to inform you. Again, we're comfort food. That's all we're here for. And Jesse's going to pay a little homage to something relatively Pokédjacent that he cares deeply for, and we're going to talk about that for a few minutes.
Incredibly Pokédjacent. So if you were like me and you were introduced to, say, the WB kids, and you met Pokemon, you loved Pokemon, and you tried the card game, and you were like, wow, this card game is ridiculous and stupid, which is how I felt. And I know not everyone feels that way. Shawn agrees with me. But especially because the card game that was created, the Pokemon show and video game and the card game, they don't interact well. They just don't. But if you were the kid who watched that WB Kids, etc., you soon learned about another show, monsters, cards, etc. What was that? Yu-Gi-Oh!
It's time to
It's Duel. Oh, it's so good. Yu-Gi-Oh was for me. Really, it sucked a lot of my interest in Pokemon and Digimon out of the way because I very quickly discovered that Yu-Gi-Oh cards made sense. There was a logic to them. There was a strategy, unlike to me, Pokemon cards. So I very quickly modified my very small purchasing power as a, young kid with my allowance. Exactly. From Pokemon cards to Yu-Gi-Oh cards. And I discovered, wow, this makes a lot more sense. As a result, I became obsessed with the Yu-Gi-Oh! TV series as well. Very similar, lots of ways. There are cards, there are monsters. The difference, I think the primary difference, Shawn, is that in Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards are cards. Like in Pokemon, there is no card equivalent, despite there being a card game. But in Yu-Gi-Oh! The characters all use Yu-Gi-Oh cards. The whole premise of the game is duel monsters and the decks you create to fight each other. It's much more realistic. As a result, I got hooked. Love the initial Yu-Gi-Oh TV series so much. Yugi and Yami Yugi and the Millennium Objects and the connection to ancient Egypt is incredible. Pokemon's got none of that. Sorry, Pokemon. You should have added ancient Egypt in there somehow. It's incredible. It's one of the best TV shows I've ever enjoyed. Even if they give you 1 million episodes of filler and make sure that every time you return from a commercial break, you know the last 5 moves that happened. But it's amazing. Shawn, have you seen any Yu-Gi-Oh?
I care deeply about this topic, so I did maybe a smidge more research than I care to admit. So if you don't mind, I've got like a 2-minute rant.
Yes.
That I love Yu-Gi-Oh monsters. So Yu-Gi-Oh originated as a it was a manga first, and the manga had like very dark themes to it and dark kind of everything about it. And the manga is just supposed to be tied around just games in general as a means of battle. But then at the end, people would just die and stuff. Sometimes that's kind of messed up. But then people latched on to this magic-like card game that was originally just meant to be like a riff on Magic, very intentionally, very blatantly. And people are like, we want more of that. So then it becomes, that's the focus of the manga. And then we get this card game and this TV show. And I think the result of what I'm trying to get at here is why these monsters in Yu-Gi-Oh! Are fantastic. You've got Pokemon, which you can kind of see just sort of kind of basic geometric shapes you can identify that create a lot of, not all Pokemon, and it's not bad design, it's just the style. And Digimon was always more like what young teens think is cool, so you end up with werewolves wearing spiky football pads and fire-breathing T-Rexes in mech suits. But what you get in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is sort of an emphasis on just kind of almost horror. I'm going to call it like horror light elements. It fits the dark theme and mojo of the entire show. And there's there's not a ton of animation. If you really watch in the episodes, none of the monsters get just a whole lot of animation, kind of a single, maybe one or two. But that allows them to put like an immense amount of detail and sometimes a very grotesque amount of detail even that you just, those other shows that we talk about and all the other things we talk about will never touch what you can get in Yu-Gi-Oh! That's not to say that the show is better or that not pretending it's like a better game than Magic the Gathering, which, by the way, the card art in Magic the Gathering and some of these other modern tabletop games are incredible. But for where it started compared to these other shows that were its competitors at the time, Yu-Gi-Oh! Monsters are amazing. Jesse, please tell me your favorite Yu-Gi-Oh! Monster or card. You can rationalize.
My favorite Yu-Gi-Oh cards will forever and always be Pegasus's signature cards, which were the Toon World series of cards.
That's fantastic.
I love Toon World. I love the idea of very cartoony animated monsters and a cartoon series that were also incredibly destructive, very meta. Loved it. Pegasus all the way.
Thank you for allowing me to rant. It is a subject I feel very passionately about. Love those Yu-Gi-Oh! Monsters. And then mine would be Beals. And Beals, yes, they're just these massive There's lots of dragons in Yu-Gi-Oh! And lots of them are kind of horrifying and terrifying. But Beals and Beals, yes, just have a very classic horror, big, massive dragon feel that I find incredible. So, big, massive fan. Also, if you want to learn to play Yu-Gi-Oh! A little better, or Pokemon a little better, you can play Tabletop Simulator is frequently like $10 on Steam or $20 on Steam. And you can play like Yu-Gi-Oh! Structure decks, or I have gotten slightly better at Pokemon, slightly, by playing that occasionally on Tabletop Simulator. That's a great
I will never play the Pokemon game again.
I've gotten a little better. I still enjoy Yu-Gi-Oh! As a game, personally, way more, and Magic. I like Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic. I probably lean towards Magic. Don't hurt me, anybody. And most people won't hurt me, I don't think. Magic is a great game. So, but I've dabbled in tabletop Pokemon, Tabletop Simulator on Steam. Go look into it, at least. There's lots of good stuff in there. Jesse, that's an excellent topic. I could talk about it all day.
You.
We will someday. Or it'll just revisit. It'll be revisited in different forms. Like someday we will definitely talk about the voice actors for Pegasus and for Yami Yugi and for Kaiba. We're just going to spend a whole day talking about
Maximilian Pegasus, my boy.
Incredible voice actors. They're astounding. But
Yugi boy. Oh, Kaiba.
But in the meantime, we have been
gay icon Maximilian Pegasus
without purple hair, mind you, throws one of our theories in the gutter.
You're right.
He defies logic, and that's fantastic. Someday we'll spit. We're not done with Yu-Gi-Oh! By any means, so you just buckle up because it's always going to come back.
Yep. Not by any means a stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, I'll never let either one of those things not be involved in our little show that we call Segue Pokemalarkey, which, by the way, thank you all so much for watching. It has been an absolute pleasure to talk about The Ghost of Maiden's Peak, episode 20 of Pokémon Indigo League, and also to spend some time talking about the monsters of Yu-Gi-Oh! That's my friend Jesse. He's over there. I got it almost right this time. You can find him at
That's
Jester
me.
Tyler. I'll put that all in the description. You can find both of us with your critiques, comments, anything you want, really. We'd love to hear from you at pokemalarkey on basically every platform you care to name. Jesse, thank you so much for joining me. It's been a real treat, as always.
You're welcome. Don't get kidnapped by ghost Pokemon. See you later.
Parting words of wisdom. I love it. See you all later. Have a great one.